But we are welcoming our next guest, and she is with BK Royston Publishing, which is one of the publishing partners for the show. And her name is Christian Butler, but she also writes under uh, the pseudonym CB Renee. So, welcome. And I don't know, you have CB on the screen, so I guess we'll call you CB. But welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. We hear
Yes.
you very
All
well.
right. Thank you
And
guys
I
for
see you with
having
your BE.
me.
Look, I
Yes,
see you with your
listen, because
BEP t-shirt.
we root for everything black around here, honey. I'm in the right place. So I said, let me show up correct.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm so honored to be here, honestly.
And we're so honored to have you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank
I
you.
don't where are you in the world?
I am in Tampa, Florida, but I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. Always repping the 502, no matter
Oh,
where I
it's a
am.
Kentucky night.
Right, we just our
Period.
previous
Period.
guest was in Kentucky, and we
Okay.
were talking
Okay.
about Louisville, and he's been there for like 10 generations or something like that. His family
Yes.
has
Okay.
been in
Yeah. Have you
Kentucky.
all been to Kentucky before?
I've
Yeah, I
been
was
once,
stationed.
but
Yeah, I
Rhonda,
was stationed there for 3 years when I was in the army. I was at Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you right outside of Louisville.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So, you are now. Do you write fiction exclusively, or is this
So
do you just have the one book, or do you have other books?
this is the first book that I have like under my own pen, if I should say that. But I do have two other projects that I did with in collaboration with organizations that I was working for. So those books are not necessarily like my book. One is like a financial literacy book called the Ujama Workbook that I had with a community organization that I was working for, and then another one is like a collection of stories from the historic Russell neighborhood in Louisville. But my future projects that I do have after this book are more along the lines of fiction, and then I'll be getting into some children's books and tapping into some other lanes too. But for right now, I'm just into the nonfiction fiction era.
What do
Okay.
you like to write about with your fiction books?
With my fiction, I just like to write about whatever comes to mind. I grew up like reading urban fiction, so with my first book, I kind of like geared towards that because that's what I like to read. So I'm like, I'm gonna like get into what I like first, and then I'll bridge out
Mhm.
into other arenas and areas. But for right now, I love writing books that my people can relate to. So I get that with the urban fiction. So you know, I'm Christian, so it's a lot of God involved, but it's definitely a lot of stuff that people can relate to in the book as well.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the book with
I do
you?
not have a copy of the book present, and then I tried to put the book as my background, but it was flipped the other way, so I just took it off. But no, I'm in the process of moving right now. So everything
Mm.
is packed up, and I was hoping that I
Oh,
would be moved before this came about, but it's okay because you can find it on Amazon under Sydney, Cydney. And if you type CB Renee, it'll pop right up for you.
okay. So it's called Sydney,
Hmm.
and it's just a one-word title, and that's the main character's name, I'm assuming.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. So what is the book Sydney about?
Uh, so Sydney is a coming of age story. Sydney is a young lady. She's an Afro Latino. I don't know the politically correct word, but her mom's black, her dad's Puerto Rican.
Okay.
She grew up in Brooklyn, rough childhood, raised by her grandmother, and had these group of neighborhood friends. She moved out to California, so the book opens with her life in California with her boyfriend that she moved out to California from Brooklyn with. And it gives the aesthetic at first like, oh, this was her dream to be out here, but she starts going through all of this turmoil, all of these things. So she's basically on a journey to like find herself, because the things that she's getting into with her boyfriend is not really how she wants to be and how she was raised to be, the person that her grandmother has her to be. So you kind of get to go on this journey with her as she's growing and coming into herself, getting a voice for herself, advocating for herself. You get to see that transition with her, and there's plans for future, installments of the book. So as I put out different things, you'll actually get to see her growth within the stories. But this one is one that's going to take you on a roller coaster ride. It's got some unaliveness. I don't know if I could say murder on this platform, but it's got that in there.
Hey,
It's got some drugs. It's got sex. It's got
I
a little
mean,
church
murder? You
here
can't. You didn't think you
sprinkled
could
in
say
there.
murder? I don't think that murder is a four-letter word,
Well,
but
sometimes they be trying to flag, so I would never want to do that to your platform. But anyways, that's what's
oh,
going on in Sydney. It's basically just that coming of age story of her getting out of that rough relationship, running into an old friend who helps her through that stage, and then every time you think that she's kind of like got it together, then something else happens. So definitely a story that's going to keep you on your toes. Definitely something that puts you in a like, oh, I want to see this on the big screen type of vibe.
and what's the name of the book again?
The book is called Sydney, and it's spelled with a C because of
Okay.
my name being spelled with a C, and it's CY because my mom's name is CY. I like to do stuff that like makes personal sense to me in my life. So
And nothing
yeah.
wrong with that. No, it's
no,
it's
because
nice to give homage to your family that way.
Mhm. That's where my pen name actually came from. Me and my mom share the same initials. So CB is our initials, and then we both have Renee as our middle name. Boom.
Okay.
oh, okay, that's how they came about. Well, people come up with titles and characters and settings
Mhm.
for all kinds of different reasons. Um, I named in my children's book series is a girl and two boys, and I named the girl Daisy after my mom.
Mhm.
So,
I
you
love
know,
it.
yeah. So a lot of times there's a connection. Sometimes it's just random, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever comes to you when you're writing.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. So how
So,
would you describe your characters? I mean, what are their personalities?
Um, So Sydney's an around the way girl. Like if while you're reading the book, you're gonna see that like she's in this group, her group of friends. She's the only girl in the group. So she grows up, kind of like rough around the edges a little bit, but she still had
Hmm.
that feminine side because like her grandmother raised her. And so she's around a group of friends. One is a guy who's from Jamaica, another is another black boy who grew up in the neighborhood. And so she's coming from this like quote unquote projects of Brooklyn, and she moved out to California with these bougie people because like the boyfriend that she's with, he's from Brooklyn as well, but he comes from more of a richer family and a richer background. He is black, but they grew up in different like tax brackets in different tax brackets.
Right,
So
right.
when she moved out to California, we open up the story opens up with her trying to navigate life through these people who she can't really relate to. So she's trying to be, that. And so she's surrounded by, various people. Like she runs into people from the hood, she runs into business owners and stuff like that. So it's just a cesspool of different personalities when I write.
A cesspool. Okay, now.
Yeah, because you never know what might pop up. Like I said, it's just, you really don't you might think that the book is this, but then there's a scripture popping up. Like it's
Hmm.
just I like to keep people on their toes.
now that you said the setting is Brooklyn and then California. So did you live in those places, or did you
I did
just
not.
decide you were going to use those as a setting?
I've lived my life vicariously through people who grew up in Brooklyn because I always wanted to be from Brooklyn. Growing up, Brooklyn was my favorite movie, and so like I thought I was Troy. I wanted to live in Brooklyn. I wanted to have the brownstone. Now that I've gotten older, I've been able to appreciate like my country upbringing in Kentucky. But like when I did Sydney, no, that was just something that made it personal to me. Even though this was a completely made up story, that was something that made it personal to me. Have her being from Brooklyn, and then I've always wanted to go to California, and so then I made that setting be a part of there. And then when I was actually writing the book, I like to research and I like to research random things. So I actually got on Google. And so the places that you're seeing, like being mentioned in this book, people who read the book from those places are going to be like, oh, okay. Because I actually went on Google Maps and was able to see like what was surrounding in the area. So just to make it as real as possible. So even
Yeah.
though I've never been to those places, you're not going to be able to tell when you read the book.
Well, there's a value in doing that because when I read a book, I'm from New Orleans, and
Hmm.
if I read a book and it is obvious that the author has never been there and all they're doing is using a bunch of stereotypes and all of the tourist places, you know,
Hmm.
we're not going to Cafe Du Monde for breakfast. We're just
Exactly.
not, you know.
Exactly. And
You
is
know,
that where
so
you're gonna get the good beignets? Period, though.
no,
Like,
well, no, I don't mind going to Cafe Du Monde for some beignets, but I have to be in the mood for that. I'm
yeah,
not making a special trip. If I
yeah,
happen to already be in the French Quarter, and newsflash, people from New Orleans don't even like going to the French Quarter like that
right.
because there's nothing but tourists there. But
Hmm.
if we go, yeah, we might stand in line and get some if we have some friends visiting, but we're not going there for breakfast.
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
else are we not doing? We're not in the French Quarter eating at a sidewalk cafe. We're not
Hmm.
doing that.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I
I
didn't
can
want
tell
that.
when the
Like,
author has not been there.
yeah, I want. Now I have not been to California. I've been to New York a few times. I haven't been to California before, but I did my due diligence because I'm like that too. I love to read,
Exactly.
and you can tell when it's inauthentic. You can tell when the language that they're even using is not like So
Oh,
even like the
yeah.
slang that I put into the book, like I just did my research. I did my due diligence because I wanted to produce something that people could relate to. And like I said, eventually it was a big screen. So it needs to already have those vibes. So to be able to catch people, to be able to be a waiting to a tale or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I definitely made sure that I did my research when it came to
No,
that.
I love that and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, I didn't get to go to that cafe place you're talking about, Rhonda, when I was in New Orleans. Tell me about it. And so I missed out on the beignets.
Oh,
But
well,
what
next
I
time we go to New Orleans, we have to get some beignets.
okay, what
Period.
the places I ate, the food was excellent. So then the
It
last
was.
one you didn't recommend, it was the recommended by the hotel. And I can't even remember the name. It was a French name, and that probably didn't help because it's probably a whole bunch of places with names in French.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could
But
be
it was
anything.
right near where I was staying. It was in walking distance,
Okay.
and it was really, really good. And I had good food while I was in New Orleans because I wanted
Oh yeah.
authentic New Orleans food. It was really good. All of it. And I wanted to eat something different each day so I wasn't repeating same
Hmm.
dishes. I wanted, and I got the variety while I was there. Rhonda and I
Right.
were there together, although she's from there, but we were also there together
Yes.
last summer at a conference in July.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh, oh, y'all was hot.
Oh, it was hot.
well, we stayed indoors though, and I live in Houston, so
Oh, well,
New
yeah.
Orleans heat is nothing compared to here. To
Yeah,
me, we
I had to get
Listen,
used to it. Now
yeah,
I am. I've been in Tampa for about a year, so I'm somewhat used to the heat and humidity now. But
yeah,
woo.
I don't
it's
see how you keep your pretty curls in Tampa because that heat'll dry your hair out.
Look, I use black owned products. Shout out to Kaleidoscope. Make sure y'all go and get my this product. Like I really am big into her stuff. Or, any type of like natural oils and stuff. The water is really hard here and it took like for me to
mm,
get used to it. But yeah, you find your thing.
yeah. Now you said you were into other writing projects.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit more about those.
The ones that I have coming or the ones I already have.
The ones that are already published.
Okay. So the first one that I have is called the Ujama Workbook, and basically it's a little girl named Harmony. Her and her dad are going to this Ujama market in her neighborhood, which is a collection of black-owned businesses.
Mm-hmm.
In that market, she has aunts and uncles who teach her about cooperative economics, and so as she's going to these different um people's, the different merchants and whatever they're selling, they're telling her these stories and giving her different lessons. So they're all whatever topics. There's financial literacy, there's self sustainability through like growing your own food and things like that. So it's
Hmm.
basically a game night type of feel. So it's created for children, but for the whole family to participate in to complete the Ujama workbook. So there's different sections and different lessons. At the end of each section, there's an activity for the whole family to participate in. And so essentially, it's like a game night that you would sit down and use this workbook to form like a game night with all the family sitting down. But you're learning together and doing it in a fun way. So that was a book that I did in collaboration with a bunch of different organizations in Louisville. The company that I was working for, the organization that I was working for at the time is called Russell, A Place of Promise. They're focused on Black wealth building in the historic Russell neighborhood. So that one is really good. We teamed up with another organization called Play Cousins Collective that is focused on building villages around our children. And so it's a tool that people can use, and it was free and accessible to the community. I believe they can still go online and get it. We had some physical copies that went out as well, but it's one of those things kind of like bring family time back together, but also in a
Right.
way that, teaches the children and us, a lot of adults who don't know about financial literacy. So it was one of those things kind of like, bring us all together and we learn it together, grow it together. The other project that I have out was also within the Russell community. Shout out to Russell in Louisville for building and making me who I am today. But this other project that I was a part of, it was from the Louisville Story project. Lord, please y'all don't if I get that wrong. But anyways, I want to say it's the Louisville Story program and Louisville Story project, but they focus on preserving the stories of like marginalized communities in Louisville. And
Right.
so they did a collection of stories of people in the Russell neighborhood, and a lot of focus was going on in that historic Russell neighborhood in Louisville because a lot of investment was going into this historic neighborhood. Russell in the Louisville community used to be the Harlem of the South, which was that we had our own like businesses. It was like a Black Wall Street in Louisville. And this was a place where people came through. If they were in the music business or whatever, they had to come through Louisville to get to where they needed to go. And so that neighborhood was Russell. It was once one of the richest Black communities in the United States. And so they wanted to they being people within the community who grew up in the community and were doing social justice work wanted to preserve the history of the community. And so they did that through these different projects. One being the Russell Place of Promise organization that I was part of, and another being this project with the book that I was a part of. And so, dang it, I forgot the name of the actual book. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to actually, I don't know, I wasn't prepared to actually like talk about these. I thought I was just going to talk about Sydney. But this other project was basically a collection of stories for people to tell like their time growing up in Russell, because Russell is also a community where it had now became like the one of the most poverty stricken communities in Louisville. And so it went from being this great thing into this. And so when that quote unquote um, people try to come in and invest, we just want to make sure that investment don't look like displacement. So let's
Right.
preserve our stories, let's preserve our history in these different ways. And so I was blessed to be a part of that through storytelling, through the Ujama workbook, and on my if you write a letter, send it here is the name of the book. Thank you, Laura, for bringing that. If you write me a letter, send it here. That's the name of the collection of stories from the historic Russell neighborhood. And so that was a mouthful, but I'm very passionate about community work as well. And so I use
I
my
can
voice.
tell. I
Yeah,
can tell.
I love to use my voice. I wasn't always like that. Like when I was younger, you had to really know me to get this part of me. Yeah, I used to, be very timid, very like suppressed. And so now I got my voice, I'm gonna use it in whatever way.
But now I mean, I love the fact that you use your voice, but what was it that got you so passionate about financial readiness and teaching it to children?
Honestly, I was being paid for my passion, let me say that. Because I can sit here and say, oh, I really wanted to do it, but it was a part of my job at the time. Like we were supposed to be doing a actual game night as a part of getting the community to come out and have these
Hmm.
events where we was actually going to teach them about financial literacy in that setting. And then the Play Cousins Collective was going to come out and provide childcare in that setting, while that was going on. And the way that they do their business is that when they are showing up and providing childcare in spaces like community meetings where people usually wouldn't have childcare, then they would create a curriculum for the children around whatever it is that they would be talking about in that meeting. And so COVID happened around this time. And we weren't able to be in person. And so we had to be quick on our feet. How can we still get this initiative out there in a creative way? And so then that's when the Ujama workbook came about. Like, hey, everybody's sitting at home, everybody's doing things together, so let's put it in a book form. All the stuff that we wanted to do in person, let's just
Makes
put it in
sense.
book form.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it was presented to myself and a representative from Play Cousins, and she and I worked together to make it happen and got other people within the community to come together. So the stories that you're hearing from the aunts and uncles in that book are actually Black business owners in the local community.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just passionate. To answer your question, it was part of my job. Sorry. It was part of my job, but I've always had this passion for people because that's what I grew up seeing. My mom and my
Right.
dad were both very, they're both ministers. My mom has gone home since, but she was an advocate. I saw her advocating for our people and for us growing up. And so that's something that's just been instilled in me. I saw that growing up. Like, I remember watching the Million Man March on TV, and my mom like, "Hey, can
Yes.
you see your dad?"
Never gonna forget
Like my
that.
dad was there. Like,
Okay.
and growing up watching movies that invoked me to think
Mm.
outside of what I was seeing. Like, honestly, it was my parents, and I'm gonna try not to cry. Yeah, my parents instilled this.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you were able to have that as part of your upbringing,
Yeah,
because
I
not
agree.
everybody does, and
yeah,
so it's beneficial
yeah.
to
Being in
have
community
that.
made me see that though.
Yeah,
See, like,
community is
yeah.
important, very important. Now, how did you get connected with BK Royston Publishing to get
Woo!
your novel out there, Sydney?
I honestly, I don't remember how I met Miss Royston. Like, I just be in the mix. Honestly, I've used social media. I've used social media to build my village. Like, even me getting the job at Russell Place of Promise, I started off at Play Cousins Collective, and then when this initiative started, people from Play Cousins went over there. So it was a being around people who know people. Is how I got connected to her, and I feel like it came from that space. Like, a lot of the connections that I have now came from like my connection with Play Cousins, and because that was my first like quote unquote like job into the community and social justice work, or going from just sitting at home to actually getting in, getting my feet wet, doing stuff. And
Right.
after I got connected with that organization, it came. So I don't remember if I met her on social media, what happened, but I know like when it came time for me to want to get the book, I think somebody referred her to me, and I had been following her on social media, and so then we got connected. But the book, Sydney, actually started out as a Facebook story challenge. So it was building, and I turned it into a book, and so yeah, that's
Hmm.
how I got connected with her. Ain't no telling.
How is that Facebook Story Challenge thing? And what?
So, oh my God, this was in like 2016. People were doing it was hashtag Facebook Story Challenge. You should go check it out, actually. I took all my stuff down because it was good. People was tuning in. It was ready. Yes, so I was posting it one post at a time. And then I was posting, then it
Okay.
went to like one post a day. And so my brother was like, all right, you're going to turn it into a book. Hurry up and snatch it down because I'm an influencer. I influence a lot of people. I could say they steal from me. Well, it is what it is. Now I'm influenced. It is what it is. So I didn't want that particular part of me to be replicated. And so I took that story down, changed it up a little bit, and created this. But yeah,
Okay.
started
I
off
didn't
as
know
a
about the
Facebook
Facebook
story channel.
Story Challenge. Did you know about that,
Yeah,
Rhonda?
No, but I'm going to look into it because it sounds quite intriguing.
Is a
you should.
hashtag
It was some
Facebook?
interesting stories that happened. And I
Okay.
actually was following another girl. She was writing a story. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I've been writing for a while. I can do this. So I just started, putting my little stuff out there and people started getting interested. And so I ended up, Sydney was a 12-part Facebook stories. And I took those 12 parts and turned it into the 12 chapters, which is now Sydney the Novel.
Okay. It's
Okay.
kind of like Rhonda, what they did back before social media with the the meetup rooms or whatever online, the chat
Mm-hmm.
rooms or the
Mm-hmm.
you know not blogs as
Mm-hmm.
much, but places where like-minded people would get together
Right.
and exchange ideas.
Yeah.
That
Well, they
that
was
was
just,
before social media.
it wasn't really necessarily an exchange of ideas. It was literally people creating stories on Facebook in the form of their posts. And so it, I don't know how many other people turned their stories into books. I hope a lot of them. The one that made me start writing Sydney, her story was good. I'm talking about these people were creating characters, scenarios. Like it was literally like a soap opera on social media. So yeah, it was Facebook short story challenge. Look it up. It was circa 2016, 17 ish.
Okay. Yeah, but it does sound like what happened before social media
Well,
online.
I'm gonna need you to just go ahead and put a link in the chat so I
So
can
we can
paste it
easily
into
look
the
it up.
Facebook chat.
Hmm.
Okay.
So we can
I'll have
easily
to do
look it
it
up.
once my segment is over. Then I'll hop on because if
Well,
I
that
hop
time is now. That's what
in, okay.
Rhonda.
It is 9:30. It is 9:30.
Yeah, that time is now. So, thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest on Black Authors
you.
Matter TV.
Thank
And
you.
check out her name is CB. It's on the screen. Renee. She
Hmm.
writes under CB Renee. And the
Hmm.
title of the book is Sydney with a C, CYDNEY, right?
Yes, ma'am. You can
Okay.
find it on Amazon.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you. Bye, ladies. I'll see y'all next
Thank
time.
you.
All right. Good night.